Remember we did a comparison of flagships? We mentioned Legion 7 i 2021, which received rave reviews. In short, cost-effective, cooling fast, and troubleless. Now more than half a year passed. Lenovo finally released a new flagship Legion 7 i 2022. With a new chassis, design in the same Lenovo design, and the same RGB lighting from the last gen. How's its performance? After this video, you will find the answer. First, as usual, specs: CPU, 12th gen Intel Core processors, 991-900HX with 8 P-cores and 80 cores, 16 cores and 24 threads. GPU RTX 3080 Ti, 175 watts thermal capacity, 4800 MHz DDR5, dual channel, 16 GB each. Samsung PM901 SSD, 1 TB, PCIe 4, OX4, 2560 by 1616 inch display, IPS screen with 100% Shrieby color gamut, 165 Hz refresh rate. For the price, 3080 Ti version sells for $3,939. There's also a 3070 Ti edition, reference price at $2,772. That's a big jump from the price of 2021 model. Now let's look at its exterior. As we mentioned above, Legion 7 I adopted a new chassis. The first impression is that it's thicker than before. 20.48mm on the front and 24.79mm in the rear. Seems we're right. Thin may not be one of its labels anymore. It's a compromise for performance. The weight doesn't change much though. The machine weighs 2.495 kilograms. Adapter is 1.02 kilogram. Way lighter than a thick one, but you'd better take a small PD charge when you're out. But this exterior, totally Legion Slim 7 i and extra thick. From logo to power button, from air inlet to CNC cutting edge. They are like iPhone Mini and iPhone Pro Max, produced in the same mold. If it followed the naming logic of phone, it should be called Legion Slim 7 i Ultra. Or why 9000 King? Of course, it's a joke. This machine kept some elements of the Legion 7 i series, like the environmental RGB system added last year. Press FN plus space. You can easily switch to various presets. Legion Zone takes over the light effect, so it won't conflict with Corsair IQ Commander anymore. 2 Thunderbolt 4 on the left, supporting data transmission and video output. 3.5mm headphone jack. And USB-C 3.0 to Gen 1 on the right side. Its main ports are on the rear. There are too many kinds, so I'll skip 4 USB 4 in total, which provides enough scalability. I'm not happy that all the ports are in the back. It's inconvenient to connect a mouse or a USB drive. It's reasonable that the narrow side of Legion Slim 7 i can only be available for USB-C. But the thickness of Legion 7 i is definitely enough for a ports. I don't think Lenovo has done well on this detail. Okay, after the exterior, let's start our test. First, the screen. The display panel comes from SOT, 103.8% Shrieby volume and 97.9 Shrieby coverage. Color accuracy by default and in Shrieby mode preset by X-Rite. To my surprise, the color is more accurate by default. It supports DC dimming of a maximum brightness of 527 nits. The black-white-black is 8.41 Miss Gray to Gray, 12.7 to Miss. This panel can rank in the top tier of gaming screens of the same size. It may balance games, movies, and image processing. Some of you can be confused by these data of the display. How did you get them, you may ask? In fact, we test every machine with a color calibrator and an oscilloscope on color gamut, accuracy, uniformity, response time, and so on. And we have to repeat the test on laptops that support gamut switching or include calibration files to ensure accuracy. Since we've toiled so much, could you please like, comment, and subscribe? Next, the performance. We've talked a lot about CPU before, so let's look at the specs quickly. This i9-12900HX is one of the Intel H55 laptops. Same with the 12th gen desktop processor. It adopts a hybrid architecture of 8P plus 8E. 2 more P-cores than that of H45. L3 cache increased to 30 megabytes. Flush with the PC version. Meanwhile, Intel released i9-12950HX. It differs from 12900HX in terms of overclocking, Pro Enterprise, and X support. But the performance hasn't changed much. Let's look at the benchmark first. In Cinebench R20 loop test, its first score was 8,302, then stabilized around 7,500. The score dropped from around 175 watts to 145 watts in the first round. And it ran to 140 watts before falling back to 115 watts. P-Core was running at 3.8 GHz and E-Core to 0.9 GHz. The R20 single-thread score was of 709, a bit low. GPU, in 3D Mark time speed, it scored 13,336. In feet, 16,699. In superposition 1080p, 8,245. Normal games. We tested some pop online games and single-player games. Online games. All three of the games we test often performed well. Under 1080p, CSGO got 700 Fs on average, which means its CPU and memory bandwidth is relatively great. Single-player games, under 2000 resolution, most games got passing scores, except 2077 and Warhammer 3. Not far off the average of 60 frames though. If you reduce some settings that consume a lot of resources, you may get a smooth experience. Be aware that it's a 2560 by 1600 display, so it needs a more powerful GPU than the 16 by 9. To compare the Fs horizontally, we tested under 1080p for your reference. Productivity 3 Adobe software all got scores of over 1,000. It can deal with most of projects that need productivity. In SpecViewPerf 2020, which focuses more on graphics performance, 3080 Ti did a good job. Except for models with professional cards, that's the biggest gun. Okay, the test is over. Now the teardown. The Legion 7i 2022 is not difficult to disassemble. Unscrew all the screws on the bottom to remove the back cover. The structure hasn't changed much from the previous gen. Battery at the bottom. Nominal capacity 99.9 Wh. Its battery life in PC Mark 10 is only 2 hours and 52 minutes. What? 100 Wh for only 3 hours? We found the problem when we saw the power on standby. In hybrid mode, its power on standby is up to 13 watts. What exactly is the problem? We did a lot of tests to figure it out. We turned off Lenovo Computer Butler and Legion Zone. We even uninstalled both packages. Same results. In the end, I resorted to reinstallment. Finally, the result came to normal, with only 4 watts on standby, nearly 10 watts less. That's right. After reinstallment, its battery life of PC Mark 10 became more than 5 hours, twice as fast as it was. Wait, since the CPU power of the original system has been squeezed, does CPU performance be affected? We retested it in the R20. It turned out that the R20 score is higher than before. A multi-core score increased from 8300 to 8700. And the single-core score was also raised from 709 to 737. What about games? We also picked it to test. The impact is tiny. Because most games demand graphics, even a game that occupies CPU demands more single-core performance. The power to support the single core is relatively small. So the impact on the performance of the game isn't that much. Imagine, when you are playing the game, there will also be QQ and WeChat voice chat, or live streaming in the backstage. In that case, the game generally runs smoothly. It's the same thing as what Occupation does to the frame rates. When I thought I had already solved the problem by reinstalling, the bug popped up again. Then I wondered what the problem was. It took us a while before we targeted the IGPU power-saving model. Once you reboot in hybrid mode, the system process will take up a certain system resource. But if you turn on the IGPU power-saving mode in the Legion zone, then off, it won't occupy resources in a minute. The problem is not limited to the Legion 7i we got. Several other Legion 5i Pros and even the Legion Slim 7i have similar problems. In no-load state, CPU power increases, which leads to shorter battery life. We guess the bug may be caused by the video card driver. This problem has been fed back to Lenovo. They said it would be fixed in an update. Okay, let's go back to the disassembling. The memory is covered by a shield case, then 2 SK Hynixes by default, 4800 MHz DDR5. Here are benchmark results. DDR5 bandwidth is very good, with the read speed approaching 70,000, which is helpful for high frame rate games. The stock disk is on the right side, a Samsung PM901. Here are benchmark results. WLAN card is Killer AX1675i supporting Wi-Fi 6E. This time we built a test bed for it, with a Wi-Fi 6 router as the signal transmitting device, then connect both sides through the 2.5 grams Ethernet port. Because Wi-Fi 6E on laptops is currently 2 times to MIMO to the maximum, even with a necessary bandwidth of 160 MHz. It maxed at 2.4 gigabits per second, so there's no bottleneck for transmission from the server. Actual test speed is real wireless transmission speed. Then we connected a laptop to the router to do the test. The limiting speeds are AX 160 MHz and 80 MHz, considering that you may still use Wi-Fi 5 routers at home. We've also had AC 80 MHz. Because we've got the grade of only one laptop. You can just take a look when more models are collected later. We will do a detailed comparison. Cooling module is above, composed of 2 fans and a whole VC heat sink. To support the heat dissipation of higher power, the 2022 model have thicker fins. The CPU adopts liquid metal coolant, making it Lenovo's first mass production model with liquid metal coolant. Let's do the stress test to examine its cooling system. Room temperature at 25 degrees. Stress FPU at 91200HX was stable at 89 degrees, 115 watts. P-Core 3.5 GHz, E-Core 2.9 GHz. Stress GPU RTX 3080 Ti 83.7 degrees, 175 watts, 1590 MHz. Dual stress test, beast mode. Total power 55 plus 150 watts. CPU 89 degrees, GPU 84.2 degrees. If you switch to custom mode and choose full fan speed, their temperatures will drop by 4 degrees respectively. And I also found that if you increase the CPU power through custom mode, the computer can achieve 91 watts plus 133 watts in the limit case. But at that time, CPU and GPU are at the edge of temperature wall, running out of the cooling module. Exterior temperature. The hottest part of the keyboard was in the middle area, 44.8 degrees. The heating area is large, including a part of palm rest. Fortunately, the heat is equally distributed. No overheated place. If you use it for a long time under heavy load, I'd suggest an external keyboard. The ambient noise is 33.5 decibels. Beast mode at full load, 50.6 decibels. Even if you turn on the strong cooling, the noise is 52.1 decibels, quiet among other gaming laptops. Okay, I'm sure you've learned about this laptop so far. As usual, 3 merits and 3 demerits for your reference. The main advantage of Legion 7i is cooling system. On the one hand, new specs requires cooler environment, forcing manufacturers to choose between performance and portability. Legion 7i uses liquid metal coolant plus VC heatsink to ensure performance, under the premise of thickness restraint. And Legion 7i has also kept a low noise label of Legion series. Just over 50 decibels under full load can surely provide a good gaming experience. Besides, the fast charging feature also got an upgrade this year, from a high of 100 watts last year to 135 watts. Although this Type-C charge is practical, this position layout is really inconvenient. Hope they can solve this problem in the next gen. At least want a port on the side. As for the chassis, the Legion 7i 2022 is thicker indeed. No more like a thin flagship. Perhaps Lenovo wants to separate the Legion 7i from the Legion 7i. K for absolute performance, and X for thin plus performance. In these days of rising hardware power, separation is actually a reasonable solution. In the end, we have to mention the price. The price increase is really over the top. The 3070 Ti version sells for $2,772. 3080 Ti sells for $3,939. That's up nearly 80% year on year. Little expensive if you really need a powerful gaming laptop with cool lights and don't care about the budget. You can consider it, but if your wallet can't afford it, the previous generation Legion 7i will be more cost effective. If you'll probably use it for gaming, then the new upgrade is mainly in the CPU and no obvious progress on GPU, so it makes the previous generation a better buy. In the end, I want to talk about my feelings. The Legion 7i is the only 16-inch laptop. this year's flagship H55, you can see that Lenovo really wants to balance performance and portability. I want it all, but if you want a wild performance, you'll have to sacrifice your thin body. The previous generation gave users the impression of a thin flagship. This generation has become a regular-sized thick machine. This hinders the building of the brand image. In my opinion, a good flagship laptop must excel in one area. Only in this way can it find its core competitiveness more easily to attract more fans. Legion has now reached a critical stage of reversing its image. Whether they can continue the brand effect in the next 2 years depends on what they will do in the future. That's all for today's video. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to interact with me every day, please follow us on WeChat official account. I will talk about a laptop there every day. This laptop may be a good deal or not, but all we want is to provide info and guidance. This is BIBA Laptops. I'm Juan. See you next time.